welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
What's up, Darren? We're going to be getting started here in a second. Stick around. We hope you enjoy. I'm also on YT as well, so I threw a game on Madden on the TV so that way they at least got something to watch while they listen. I got the real Super Bowl matchup. I got Kansas City and Philadelphia on the TV at the Super Bowl, so we'll see which one of those wins in Madden, but at least threw something on the TV, so that way the viewers can watch that. And what's up, Brock? But yeah, that way they can at least watch something while we go over this. So basically, what's going to be talked about today in this very first episode is we're going to recap the Rolex 24. Talk about all four of the classes that won and their winners. We're going to discuss the Clash, because the Clash for NASCAR is this Sunday at 8 on Fox. We're going to talk about the rule changes for the 2025 season. We're going to talk about the 2025 TV rights for both IndyCar and NASCAR, because NASCAR has some new TV rights along with IndyCar. We're going to talk about the 2025 IMSA schedule, which stands for International Motorsports Association. That is basically the series that runs the Rolex 24. We're going to talk about the 2025 schedule for the NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series for NASCAR. Also, ARCA and IndyCar schedule. We're going to talk about a big announcement NASCAR made today in regards to changes with the playoffs. We're going to talk about the biggest Jimmy Johnson news we've had since possibly his 7th Cup Series title. The Nice Motorsports, which is a Craftsman Truck Series team, has announced their driver lineup for the number 41, so we will be discussing that also. Coy LaJoie has announced his plans for 2025. Front Row Motorsports has their driver lineup set. Austin Dillon's win from Richmond last year, the summer race, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, you'll know, and if not, you're going to find out. We're going to talk about the countdown to Daytona for the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series for NASCAR. We're going to talk about Ryan Truex's fans. We're going to talk about his plans for 2025, along with some shocking Bill Weber news. He was a longtime NASCAR guy. He was big in his announcing. I personally don't remember him, but there was some shocking news that came out today, so we're going to be talking about that. So we're going to start with our Rolex 24. Okay, all right, cool. We're going to start with our Rolex 24 recap. So before we get into commentary on the highlights, because what we will do when there's a race involved is we will watch the highlights when we are on, and then we will kind of react to them, give our takes on things. We're going to give our takes to all the motorsports world. You know, these are our personal opinions, so don't judge or attack for that. You may disagree. You have every right to disagree, but we have our own takes and opinions on things. So getting into our recap, the winners for the classes. For the second consecutive season in GTP class, Porsche Penske Motorsport are winners of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, but it's not the other car. They have two cars, the 7 and 6 car. It's not the 6 car, it's the 7 car, back-to-back years. Felipe Nasser, Nick Tandy, and Lawrence Vanthor, all winners, overall winners from the Rolex 24. They get that Rolex watch. Felipe has 2 of those. I'm not sure if the other 2 have more than one. Bodie, I'll take guests in a minute. So Felipe gets his second Rolex back-to-back seasons. Good for him. I knew that for sure he was going to catch the number 6 car, and I knew that he was going to make that pass for the win when it mattered. I mean, the 6, he fought back, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. You know, you're going up against somebody like Felipe, and Felipe is going to be in contention, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it 3 in a row next year. Alright, so now for the LMP2 class, which stands for GTP, if you don't know, stands for Grand Touring Prototype. So we just announced the GTP class winners from the Rolex 24, but on to LMP2, which stands for Le Mans Prototype, obviously number 2. It was Tower Motorsport, Sebastian Bourdais. I can't remember John's last name, but it was John. It was another Sebastian, and I think the guy's first name was Job for the last driver, it said. So those guys win in the LMP class or the Le Mans Prototype 2 class. Now let's go to GTD Pro, which stands for Grand Touring Daytona. Or something. It's something like that. I know that the D stands for Daytona. But, so it was the number 65 Ford Mustang, and that was their first overall win at the Rolex. Well, not overall, but it was their first ever win at the Rolex 24, as Ford never won before, obviously. So, it was good to see Ford win. Yeah. So now for GTD, just the regular GTD. There's 2 different GTDs. Oh, hang on a sec. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. My tooth was bleeding for some reason. So there's 2 different GTD classes. There's GTD Pro, and there's regular GTD. For regular GTD, it was AWA, the Corvettes, winning. And honestly, my opinion on, here, we'll let Bodie join. I accepted it.
I'm trying to center my camera here. I'm planning to do the show, but I can focus in on this too.
You're good, man. What's up?
Oh, not much. Just got home from basketball. Yeah.
Sounds fun. So, did you guys win? Darn.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what we were saying, is those are all the overall winners for the Rolex 24. For GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD. Now, remember, if you're new here, like I said, there is 2 different GTDs. There's GTD Pro and there's GTD. Obviously, the only difference there is the other GTD has Pro after it. Like we said, my back to my own personal takes and opinions on it. It was cool to see Ford win for the very first time. It was cool to actually see Corvette win for a change because I started watching this race in 2021, and it was kind of cool to see Corvette take a win. LMP2, it was cool to see that. It was really cool to see Felipe go back-to-back in Porsche Penske Motorsport. My own personal reaction to the race, it was a good race. It got crazy real quick. We had the very first big one outside of NASCAR. In the night, in the S's, a car got spun and collected 6 others. We had the 31. He had some issues. He was in the wall, I think. I think we had a car actually catch on fire during the race. Yeah, that one was the 31. Yeah, because he had some sort of, I don't know what it was, but he had some sort of issue, and then he went into the outside wall. That was the Cadillac that went into the wall. Yeah.
I thought it was a Cadillac.
Yeah, it was the 31. I only remember that car because that's the one Elliott drove in 2021 when he did the race. So yeah, we had that. We had the big one. We had the 31 in the wall. We had the car go up in flames. We had Alex Palou have issues with the number 60 Cadillac. It was a lot of crazy things that happened during that race, but it was overall a good race, honestly. Most of it I had to listen to over the radio because I had work that day, and I had to listen to the start and finish over the radio. But like I said, it was a fun race. I honestly can't wait for the 2026 one, but at the same time I can because we gotta get through the rest of 2025 first.
Yep.
So that is definitely actually next on the list after we finish up with IMSA is talking about the Clash, making some predictions, and stuff like that. So basically, like I said at the top of the broadcast, we are actually, whenever there's a race, when we come on air here, we will actually watch the highlights. Well, at least I will. And I will sort of react to them, give my own personal opinions, maybe if there was a good race towards the end, give an opinion on how I think that another car could have overcame that, what played a role into that car losing, what played a role into how the winner became the winner. So the highlights are on now. So this was the start of the race. Actually, a BMW on the front row is kind of shocking because of how good Porsche Penske is at this sport. And the BMW actually got out. I remember the start. He actually got out to you always hear, he got out to a big lead, and you always hear that at Daytona, or a drafting track in general, you don't want to get out to a big lead, especially if it's NASCAR, because NASCAR fans, ARCA fans, doesn't matter, and we did have a spin at the start of the race, I forgot to mention, and that was probably the closest call I've ever seen in a race, because the GTDs, literally, how IMSA works, and the Rolex 24 works, is the LMP2s and the the GTPs are together. They take the green flag first at Daytona. Then after the GTPs take the green flag and they're starting to make their way around the course, they're usually through the S's and down towards the International Horseshoe, the GTDs will take the green flag. And what happened is one of those, it was either an LMP2 car or one of the GTPs, he got spun out in the S's where that big incident happened at night, and the GTDs, they were coming into turn one because they had just got the green flag, and he was literally going backwards after he spun. And one of the GTDs were actually lucky that they weren't going a lot faster or were a lot closer to that car, because that could have been a big one early. That could have been a full course caution, not even one lap into the race. So it like I said, GTDs got lucky there. What was I saying? I was saying, oh yeah, back to what I was saying about why you don't want to get to a big lead at Daytona. It's because when NASCAR and ARCA is running the oval, they're drafting off one another. Off.
And they've got that everyone knows that's that is the restrictor plate there, so that slows the cars down on their own, but they use that draft to get that 200-mile-an-hour speed. And when cars are in such a big pack and you get out in front, like let's say you're 10 car lengths out in front, someone could be sitting in your draft and getting a draft from behind and just closing shot right past you.
That was very well explained there. So yes, that's basically the point we were getting to. Also, the number 63 in the Rolex 24 having trouble early into the race, like just 1 hour into the race, that ended up, and you can, Hunter, you can very much be on this podcast, man. You just gotta ask to join, and then I can accept it. But anyways, what I was saying is, it ended up to be a terminal issue for that car early, and it just shows, like, the race is 24 hours. That 63 blowing up that early in the race kind of reminded me of what happened to Denny at Sonoma last year. Denny, I don't think he made it one lap and his car went up in smoke. So when you got a 24-hour race like the Rolex 24, I don't care if it's 23:59:59 to go or 59:59 to go in the race. Blowing up like that is equivalent to blowing up on lap one of a cup race.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter when you blow up.
Blowing up coming through the green flag in a cup race.
Yeah, exactly.
24-hour race.
Yeah, definitely. So basically what I was saying about the back to what we were saying about the draft. Like how we basically, Bodie here said, like when a car gets so far out in front, or a truck, it doesn't matter what series it is. When a car gets so far out in front, because of the restrictor plate actually slowing the cars down, and because
What it is it's reducing the airflow into the carburetor.
Yep.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is what that does.
Yep.
And thus that slows the car down because it's not getting the air intake to go back out the exhaust.
Yeah. And also,
To mix with the fuel to burn.
with around 21 hours and 51 minutes left in the Rolex 24, we actually did have an LMP2 car bury it into the tire barrier. And that was the first full course yellow of the Rolex at Daytona. And then with 1954 to go in the race, we had a LMP2 battle for second in the class between, I'm not sure how to pronounce some of these last names, but between the 2 car and the 88 car. And they were really not that. It's okay. So this battle, and the battles you've probably seen, as we did have a spinner there, that it was the 8 car for Tower Motorsports. I believe that's the car that actually won the LMP2 class in the Rolex. But when the IMSA cars are racing on track, if someone jumps out too far, because this is what I was going to say before we started describing the pack, it's equivalent to that draft of a NASCAR car or truck, because these cars can go a lot faster. Like, if you threw these guys on the oval, I could imagine they could probably get close to 300 miles an hour.
I was thinking 250, 300 easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, it doesn't matter if they're on the road course or not. That draft that the NASCAR cars have, pretty much plays a role in this. That Mercedes jumping, or that BMW, excuse me, jumping out to that lead like that. You saw it if you watched the race. When they got into the S's, they caught them. They were right there. And I think that's exactly what happened to the 6 car, is the draft effect off of the 6 car that Felipe had, and he was able to just go right around them and make that pass for the win. And then,
Yeah, that Cadillac that wrecked early in the race, I don't know if that's what happened or if something broke on the car when he just hit the wall, but
yeah.
later in the race, overnight.
Also, there was a battle for first with around 19 hours and 25 minutes to go. It was between the 6 and 31. Now they're on the GTDs classes. First of all, let me give an opinion on the GTDs. It was cool to see Scott McLaughlin and FSG, what the heck am I saying? SVG together in a car, especially because of their history as sports car racers. It was really cool to see them come together and drive a car 24 hours around the Daytona road course. Here's another personal opinion. Just to make the race more interesting, I think that IMSA should throw in, as Andy Lally went around the 44. It's a GTD car. I can't remember how many hours were left because it doesn't say. But what I was saying is, I think that IMSA should add that chicane NASCAR had.
Yeah, I like that chicane, I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's a good addition to have.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, because, like, I feel like if that chicane is there, then, it doesn't almost guarantee a winner if they pass you, like, on the speedway, because you still have to, you would still have to slow down, go through that. Yeah,
if you're running a high side, that's a big danger too.
Yeah. Especially with that bus stop on the backstretch.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to do a flashback, as there was another battle for first in GTP. This one around 17 hours and 58 minutes to go. It was between the 60 and 40. The 60 car, obviously, like we mentioned, having some trouble there later in the race. Or no, it was the 40 car, I believe. It was one of the 2 cars. It was one of the 2 Cadillacs. They had issues later in the race. But a flashback to the 2024 Rolex 24. Not even before the race went green. It was like hours before the race went green. The safety car went through the bus stop and crashed into that wall on the backstretch. That's just a fun fact that turned out to be a not so fun day for the safety car driver. And the reason I'm saying that,
I don't know if there been grass thrown up from practice, like in 2021 with the Clash.
Yeah.
We had all that struggle with the mud and stuff in that one area. I don't know if that was part of that or he just lost it.
yeah, something happened there. I don't know, but that car was destroyed. That was like Ryan Blaney and Ty Gibbs 2024 or 2023 summer Daytona, as we got the crash right here, the 7-car crash with around 16 hours and 29 minutes to go. Just a big wreck, and it shows that. Okay, so back to our comparison to NASCAR. We all know what happened to Austin Dillon in the 2019 Daytona summer race. He got hooked, he caught the apron, and that was all she wrote for half the field.
Yep.
You don't want...
It's pretty much the race, too, because then
Yep.
rain caution or thunder caution, and then rains hit.
And
They gave Justin Haley his first career win.
yep, that is why if you watch NASCAR a lot, or maybe some of you don't watch it a whole lot, that is why every time they pull up a stat about Justin Haley, It says 2019 Daytona July winner because he won that race. Kurt Busch, if he had stayed out, would have been the 2019 winner.
Predict Thunder to come in
Yep.
at that point in time. You're predicting at that point, like, hey, there's a chance we could still finish this race if we, pit right now. And then he hits pit road, Thunder, and then they bring everybody down. And it happened, I think, right after he had hit pit road.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So what we're talking about is the crash in the S's here between the 7 IMSA cars. It's equivalent to, like I said, a NASCAR Cup Series car, truck, Xfinity car. Technically, they own ARCA, so an ARCA car. If they got turned on the apron of the track, specifically the tri-oval, NASCAR has said that the tri-oval of Daytona and Talladega is the most dangerous part on the track as possible. We actually saw this during the dual races last year. Ryan Blaney getting turned into the wall and all that stuff. Yep. And if you, especially coming off of turn 4, like in that 2023 race between Ty Gibbs and Ryan Blaney, Gibbs got completely turned by Christopher Bell. Nothing intentional, in my opinion, but yep, got. Yeah, and the same thing.
People are really afraid at that point, like with the car the way that it was. Not to go off topic from the Rolex 24, but a lot of people were afraid that Blaney record 23 was the next gen car that it was going to be something like the other Empire.
Yeah.
But thankfully we had that safer barrier out there.
And there's been which, if you don't watch racing, safer barrier actually has a meaning that it stands for. SAFER standing for steel and foam energy reductor. So steel and foam energy reductor barrier. Basically what it does is, okay, see, racetracks used to just have the concrete wall. We've all seen those crashes with the concrete wall. Not good.
Before that, they used to just have guardrails.
Yeah.
Petty's wreck from way back when. There's a lot of film on that wreck. And it's just because the safety of the time was not up to par as it is today. Go on, I'm sorry for...
No, you're good. So basically, imagine that wall being concrete when Ty Gibbs got turned by Christopher Bell into Blaney. Those guys would have been pretty much on the injured reserve for the rest of the season and probably half of the 2024 season, if not worse. So when NASCAR implemented that safer barrier on the track, it was probably the best thing they could have done, especially with this new car, because people have said that that this new car failed the crash test. So it's one of those things where you thank the Lord for having it. If that safety car from the Rolex 24 last season, thank goodness for the steel and foam energy reductor. That saved that car from probably a lot more damage, and it protected the driver. Imagine your passenger car going over 200 miles an hour head-on into a concrete wall. Probably doesn't sound fun. A safer... Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you might as well. Yeah.
You're taking 4 times that amount at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So back to what I was saying about all that stuff is basically getting turned in the S's on any road course race is like a NASCAR driver being turned off of turn 4 or going down into turn 1 at Daytona or Talladega. It's not going to be good. It's going to cause chaos every time. And It's almost like, remember when Squidward was asking the magic conch shell for something to eat? Well, race fans were asking Daytona for something to eat, and that was, please don't cause chaos in the first ever sports race of the or motorsports race of the season. But Daytona's like the magic conch shell. It said, no, I'm going to take out 7 cars in the S's. Which,
The thing about Daytona is that it's the ultimate wild card.
yeah,
Like Talladega, when you think of Talladega, it's wide, it's fast. Daytona is fast,
yep,
but it's not as wide as Talladega.
nope,
You can't make as aggressive moves at Daytona as you can Talladega. In Talladega, even aggressive moves, you know, you're thinking 4 wide, you try and take it 5 wide heading into turn 3, that's not going to work.
yeah, no. Especially because I didn't, honestly, when the NASCAR Cup guys went 4 wide in the fall Talladega race, last season and ran like that for I don't even remember how many laps,
A lot of laps.
I was like,
A lot.
these guys ain't making it 3 laps.
No.
Because Talladega, just like Daytona, it's dangerous. They say Daytona's the most dangerous track on the schedule, but I beg to differ that Daytona and Talladega are the 2 most dangerous tracks on the schedule. We've seen Daytona and Kansas Speedway. It's like a miniature Daytona. We've seen this over and over again. Ryan Preece, 2020, innocent bystander like Ryan Blaney was when Ty Gibbs got turned. Head on into the wall at almost 200 miles. It flung his car like almost all 4 tires off the yeah. Yeah. Them Bush's baked beans were really baked in that crash. But you know, and it's that. And then poor Ryan Preece, again, Daytona 2023.
2023, he took a wild ride. I mean, he looked like Ricky Rudd after his slip in the 15 Wrangler car.
Yep, Daytona, you can ask it for something to eat, but it's going to tell you no every time, like the magic conch shell.
I think of Daytona like the big brother to Dover. You know?
Yeah.
They got Miles the Monster. Daytona is like 2.5.
Yeah.
You know, his big brother.
And Darlington is a lot nicer than Daytona because if you and Dover, yes. If you tap the wall there, you're going to get a stripe. You get spun at Kansas Speedway, Daytona, Talladega, your day's probably over.
Yeah.
Which, we still got, well, it's not going to actually be 2 hours and 47 minutes, but there's 2 hours, 47 minutes at this point remaining in the Rolex 24, so we're still going to be giving our takes on that. And again, like I said, you know, regardless if you watch motorsports or not, these are our personal opinions. You may have your own opinion on things, so I'm just asking that everybody respects ours, and we will respect yours. But I'm not going to full-on argue with somebody about an opinion that I have about something. And the 88 is involved in chaos again at this point with 2 hours and 10 minutes left in the Rolex 24. That brought out another full-course caution due to the safety truck being deployed. And then they have the restart with an hour and 48 to go. This point, Felipe Nasser is in the lead. Overall lead, especially the lead for GTP. As the Super Bowl that I threw on the TV is already in the second quarter, but anyways. What I was saying is, he's the overall leader. Like, they have the class leaders, but there can only be one overall winner. So this point, you know, you have the 7 overall leader, Felipe Nasser. Leading LMP2 with an hour and 47 minutes to go in the race was Rasmussen, which is an IndyCar driver. There were a bunch of IndyCar and NASCAR drivers in this race. Leading GTD Pro was the 65 car, which ended up winning. That's the Mustang. GTD, it was the 120 car. But then we had the BMW that started on the pole. Went back to the lead. But locked it up, and Felipe back to his outside here. This is crazy. This is where it got crazy in the race. You think Daytona, okay, for NASCAR, any NASCAR race, usually the drivers start out calm. There's always a calm before the storm. Stage 1 usually goes caution-free, unless if it's 2021 Daytona 500. Stage 2 goes somewhat. There's usually at least a caution or two. And then stage 3 in the final laps, that's when one driver's like, the Super Bowl.
That's the race everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
And that's why all of these cars going into the Daytona 500 is to win that race in that big chip.
Yeah.
That's when those moves get made. That's when those big ones happen. And that's when all the cautions happen at Daytona.
Yep.
Is stage 3.
And then a perfectly fine car in the first 2 stages the engine decides, I'm going to head out on some cars. Because and that's why I argued for stage cautions to come back at road courses in the 2023 season, because what happens is those engines are running for so long already that they need those cautions to cool off. Because usually pace laps are around 50 to 60 miles per hour. You're thinking, country road to highway speed. Those cars are going when they're on the pace lap. Yeah. And that pit road's kind of like the residential area, right? You can only go like certain speeds down there. Like most of the time residential areas it's 35. But going that slow compared to going almost 200 miles an hour gives the engine a chance to cool off and let that air go into the engine better. Because when you're running 200 miles an hour nonstop without a stage caution, that increases the chance of the same thing like what happened to Denny at Sonoma in 2024 to happening to another driver. The engine can expire a lot faster. So giving that engine, a few, like 3 to 5 laps to cool off is the best thing that can possibly happen to a race car.
No, and that's right. And another thing is that you got to think 200 miles an hour as hard as you can go, and then you're sitting behind another car.
Yep.
You're hitting their bumper, you're not getting that airflow into the radiator, into the car to cool that engine off. And that's what makes these cautions so big.
Yep.
That these guys are trying to go 100% all
And,
the time.
and it's like, I think Kyle actually ran out of gas during the 2022 All-Star race, but it's kind of like that incident between Busch, Elliott, and Chastain at the 2022 All-Star race. He did something. Yeah, he did something because he was off the pace. And and if an engine expires at Daytona, it's probably going to be disastrous if there's like, let's say you're at the back of the pack and you're trying to push it as hard as you can, at least hoping for a caution to come out so you can catch back up to that draft, and your engine expires in front of cars flying sometimes even more than 200 miles an hour because of that draft. And, you're sitting there running, you see all this open track, then all of a sudden you see this car going highway speed where you're going way faster than that. You're going to react to that, and that right there can cause a big one. That's why I argue that they need those laps to cool the cars off. I don't care, like I said, people can have their own personal opinions on things. That's fine. I respect it. But my personal opinion is that it does not matter what one tells me. I am going to stand by the fact that we need stage cautions. As the checkered flag has been displayed in the IMSA highlights. So The highlights is done. Like I said, overall, it was a great race. Congrats to Felipe Nasser. Great run back to back. And if you happen to see this at all for any reason, feel free to send over one of those Rolexes. That'd be kind of cool to have. But yeah. But anyways, so now that the highlights are over, that concludes our recap of the Rolex 24. Now, when is the next IMSA race? It's not like NASCAR. It's not like IndyCar, where NASCAR, they're racing for 39 consecutive races because you think about the preseason races. You got the Clash, the 2 dual races, those count as a race. And the regular 36 race schedule. IMSA's not like that. Yeah. So in reality, you got 40 races. 41 if you count the All-Star Open. Yeah. So back to the subject of IMSA. They only race 12 times out of the whole year. That means they now have 11 races to go because they completed their Super Bowl, their race at Daytona. And I say their Super Bowl because that's the biggest race out of the year because that's the only race that is 24 hours. The rest of them are between 12 to 6 to 4 to 2 to 2 hours and 40 minutes and so on. But the next race will be the 12 Hours of Sebring, and that will be Saturday, March 15th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on Peacock. So you won't find it on NBC. You won't find it on USA. You have to have a Peacock subscription to watch that race, or you can listen to it on IMSA Radio. If you just look up "Listen to 12 Hours of Sebring," there should be a link to listen to it on the radio. I believe IMSA has a Sirius XM channel, so if you have a Sirius XM subscription, you can listen to the race there. But yes, Saturday, March 15th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is the next IMSA race, and it's the 12 Hours of Sebring. So that concludes, like I said, our discussion and recap about the Rolex 24, and talk about the next race. Now we're going to move into the Clash. For the very first time since Joey Logano won a questionable, in my opinion, championship in 2024, it's race week. Yeah, we can say it's race week. We got the football conference championships done and over with. It is race week, and then we got football. Yep. Fox is busy, man. They're busy. So basically, and they're really going to be busy this race season because we're going to tell you why when we get into our TV rights talk. But now we move into talk about the Clash. Like I said, it's Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Is it at the Coliseum? You might ask. No. Yes, it is. Let's just say the two of us doing this podcast right now weren't even born the last time they raced there. Let me see real quick. Oh yeah, I gotta add one thing to the list that we gotta talk about. Actually, I gotta add two. Okay, so I added those two things. So 1971. So yeah, your dad was not even born yet before the last time they raced there. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting seeing it on pretty much at a football stadium again. And it's going to be the same effect as Martinsville, and even though there is technically 5 degrees of banking in one of the turns at Martinsville, and like the Coliseum was, it's going to be a flat track, meaning it's going to test the drivers. It really is. You're going to tell who's experienced at flat track racing, maybe who's good at flat track racing, and maybe who probably just wants to climb out of their race car and go home after not even one lap. And it's like I said, it's going to test them. It's going to be one of the best drivers on these tracks that wins this race. And I expect there to be chaos, honestly. Like, the clash at the Coliseum went better than I expected. At first, I was like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? It's a football stadium. It's not a NASCAR track.
I really did like the idea of it. I thought if we could at the Coliseum, imagine 90,000 people watching, 20 cars going around that football field.
Yep.
That would be crazy, because I know USC loves to pack out the Coliseum. And
Yep.
the Rams used to pack out the Coliseum for
Yep.
football. So when I think of that, I think that would be just so cool to pack out the Coliseum for a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
And now, with the Clash moving to Bowman Gray, it's coming back to NASCAR's roots in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So I think those people are going to be really happy. And it's the Madhouse. So I don't know if the fans are going to be mad, but I'm sure the drivers are going to be mad with that short track race.
Oh, yeah. Especially if your name is Denny Hamlin. So basically, like we were saying, I don't know how many laps it is going to be exactly. I think it said 200 or something like that. Yeah.
I assume it'd be the same amount as the Coliseum would have been.
Yeah, because Coliseum was
Distance.
150, I think, because they had the first 75 laps, and then they had like a halftime, and then they had the last 75 laps. Because I remember. Yeah, I think you got to do what you do for the All-Star race. I think you got to make it 200 laps. But but now into our predictions. Okay, I got a few different drivers. One of them an underdog that I think could win this race. I'm gonna count these two as one. So Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano.
Okay, that makes sense.
I
would go with those guys.
Because
Go
they had the best runs at the Coliseum. I would say Martin too, but Martin's not competing in the Clash because he's now retired. He should be competing in the 500, I believe. If he qualifies. So it's Denny and Joey. Look, whether you love them or hate them, you can't ever count them out, especially in a race like this. My next pick, honestly, I think that I guess this is kind of an underdog pick too. You gotta give me one of the RFK guys, because they weren't that bad at the Coliseum, but I don't know if they necessarily would have won this season if it was still at the Coliseum. But the RFK guys, which also includes Ryan Preece because he is in the driver lineup now. I think that at a track like this, they've ran good at North Wilkesboro. I mean, it's different than North Wilkesboro, but why not one of the RFK boys? And then the third pick, I gotta go Chase Elliott. I mean, he hasn't been too great in the clashes, but usually when a driver hasn't done too great, it usually means something positive in the future. I mean, look at Michael McDowell's Daytona 500 win from 2021. Dude hadn't seen a checkered flag in all 14 years he had been in a stock car.
And then up and wins the 500.
Yep.
Controversially, but
Yeah.
give it to him. He won the 500, and he did what he had to do to win it. And as a Logano fan, I can say, I'm okay with his driver doing what he's got to do to win the race.
I'm still convinced that Elliott was just ahead of him at the moment of caution, but you know what? I can't be mad because Michael McDowell obviously deserved it. Like I said, he hadn't seen a checkered flag his whole NASCAR career.
Sport for God knows how long.
Exactly.
I think he did deserve that win. You know, it was coming for him, and for that win really earned, not to go off topic from the clash, but that win for McDowell really took a turning point for Front Row Motorsports to where they are today.
Yeah. And a couple extra picks just because why not? How about Christopher Bell? He's been kind of silent in these clash races, but usually we found out that if Christopher Bell is silent, he's eventually gonna scream. Christopher Bell, definitely an extra pick, and honestly, I would not be surprised if between Ross Chastain or SBG shocking the world at the track. I would throw Daniel in there, but he hasn't really done too well in the clash, and not that I'm not saying that he's can't win the clash. It's just I don't know if Daniel is the driver to pick for the clash. Like, it's just one of those things, in a couple weeks, when we talk about the dual races, because the week of the Super Bowl, like the Monday after the Super Bowl, the forbidden go to work day for at most. I'm actually off that day, so I don't have to be sick. We're gonna discuss, our picks for the dual races, and all that stuff. Yep. Yep, we'll do those picks as well. So we'll discuss like who we think can win the dual races and all that week. But back to what I was saying is, like, I like Daniel. Honestly, I do. Daniel, I gotta say, he's become one of my favorite drivers. But like I said, I gotta be realistic, and I gotta say, I don't know if Daniel can pull it off. That's why I put Chase Elliott as number 3. He's one of those drivers that can win at new tracks, but I also gotta be realistic. I'm not gonna be basically a Cowboys fan. Sorry to any of you all who might be listening to this that are. And say, like, oh yeah, he's gonna win and I'm gonna come back to all this when he wins and stuff like that. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm being realistic here. So that's why I picked, Hamlin or Logano first, and I picked the RFK guys before Elliott, because those guys probably have the better chance than Elliott. I would even say Christopher Bell is ahead of Elliott. I would stick with the 2 Trackhouse guys I picked being behind Elliott because, like I said, Trackhouse, they haven't been too great in the clash, but also it's proven that they can win. Like, how cool would it be in SVG's first ever clash start to see him kick a rugby football into the stands after doing a burnout after winning the clash?
At a football stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, at a football stadium. Yeah, so basically all that. Now, my one question is, they appeared to have left the field in the middle, so that leads me to ask, are they actually going to have a moment where the cars have to go off the track to pit and like a potential race break?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know there's parking outside of the stadium and they're coming from like the open end, but I would not exactly know where they would come in or what they would do with it.
I think at this point, what probably would be the most realistic is honestly just red flag the race, have everybody stop at the start finish line, and then have the crews just walk in with the fuel tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
But you would have to give them battery powered drills and stuff to get the lug nut. Yeah. Now if you crash at the Clash, then NASCAR should red flag immediately because that track is so short. Yeah, they should red flag that immediately and have the car, towed off the track so that way it's faster. My guess is they're probably going to leave the actual track to pit, but honestly, it wouldn't be terrible to just have throw up a extra barrier and put all the pit stuff on the field and then just have the guys jump over that wall and go pit the cars at the start finish line. But yeah, so that's that. Now let's dig into some of the rule changes. And one of the rule changes that I want to talk about first. Did you really?
I haven't made my pick.
Oh, you haven't made your pick. All right, go ahead, man.
All right, first pick. I'm gonna agree with Logano. Logano, he grew up doing flat track stuff at Atlanta. He said his second home when he was growing up was at Ringer's Victory Lane because of how often he wanted that little short track on the infield. So I like Logano, and then another thing about him is that he wins at a lot of new tracks in the first or second time around. He won the first Bristol Dirt Race. He won the first Clash of the Cops. He won the second Spring Atlanta Super Speedway race. That's what I like about Logano is that he has a tendency to win the first new thing.
Yeah.
So I think he can do that at the Clash at Bowman Gray. He's been successful on short, flat tracks. So that's why I think him. Number 2 is going to be Ryan Blaney. He's got the momentum from winning Martinsville, and he's won the last 2 Martinsville fall races.
Yeah.
I think that plays into his strong suit. And are we going to get the option tires for this race as well?
They haven't said anything, but I would imagine. I'd also expect the rain tires to come into play. They're not going to be going that fast. So, if a light drizzle or a rain shower comes, these cars basically that they bring to the track should be the road course cars. They should have the windshield wipers on them, the flashing light in the back window, and bring rain tires. You can race this track in the rain.
My third realistic pick is going to be Christopher Bell, simply because of how good he is at New Hampshire, and with New Hampshire being 4 times the size of Bowman Gray or something like that.
Martinsville or even. Yeah.
With that, and then my dark horse, I could expect a road course guy like SVG, or I could see SVG as a dark horse guy going into this race, with it being a short track. Such often braking and then it's going to be so tight. He won at the Chicago Street Course, and everyone struggled because of how tight that was.
Yeah.
What's he going to do in the Clash?
Yeah.
He can do that.
And,
I think he's got a good chance.
Back to what we were saying about people winning the first things, SVG won the first Chicago Street Race. Everyone's going to remember that. I promise you, even people's future kids they're gonna if that race stays around, they're gonna see that on TV. They're gonna be like, Dad, who is that guy? And we're gonna be like, that is SVG. And one thing you can remember about him is he won the very first Streets of Chicago Cup Series race. And guess what? He did it again in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, in the second Xfinity race there.
So that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah. We had Chase Elliott. He won the very first Circuit of the Americas race for the Cup Series. Probably the race that most fans want to forget, especially because...
It was rained out, too.
Yeah.
A lot of people were probably going to call that Mickey,
but... Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything there that was said. So now do we dig into rule changes? Okay, so one of my personal favorite rule changes, and like I said, everyone else might have a different opinion. I like the fact that the damaged vehicle policy was abolished. It made absolutely no sense for for because like you got the tow link for an example. That obviously could not be repaired in 7 minutes. Okay, so let's say this. Let's say I'm out driving on the road and my brake rotor explodes on my car. And the towing company brings out a timer and they're like, you got 7 minutes to get that. Oh. 1 second to my YT viewers. The live just ended unexpectedly. I'm just waiting for it to let you in, Bodie. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but the live just like ended. Like I didn't even touch anything, and it just ended. So, anyways, what I was saying is giving a team 7 minutes to replace a tow link that was obviously impossible to replace in 7 minutes would be like a tow truck driver giving me 7 minutes to fix my brake rotor on the road and then just being like, oh, time's up. I gotta tow you home now.
Update for you. Red Wings 5, LA Kings 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Red Wings just won.
Cool. But
Bonus. But anywho, yeah, I agree with you that, you know, that makes a lot of sense to get rid of it. You know, a guy shouldn't be, you know, penalized for, you know, tow link breaking, you know?
yeah.
If he can go to the garage, if the team gets his body damage fixed and then throw another tow link on there, you know, that's great. Send him back out. A tow link shouldn't end a race.
Yeah.
If a car, like, absolutely, you know, let's say blows an engine, you know, yeah, I agree. Car should be done.
Yeah.
That's the second engine of the weekend.
Yeah. And it's like the, you know, same thing with the other stuff. Like I could understand like if the car gets on pit road, you know, has to go to the garage and fix it, and it doesn't meet minimal speed on track. Unfortunately, your car is unsafe at that point. So, unfortunately, sorry guys, but you gotta take it to the garage for the day. But like I said, I personally, I don't know about NASCAR, but, and, you know, Steve Phelps, or not Steve Phelps, whoever owns it these days, I don't know about him, but I cannot personally repair my car in 7 minutes.
No. I think it's going to be tough for even like one of those big guys.
Yep. Even a certified mechanic can't fix a car in 10 minutes. If I take my car up, if I fix my car, or fix, I'm mixing my words up. If I take my car to the mechanics right now and tell them I want you to have this fixed in 7 minutes and I'm coming back to get my car, they're going to look at me and laugh. Like, that's exactly what they're going to do. So, that's one of the rule changes I was excited about. Let's look up the rest of them, because I don't remember all of them off the top of my head.
I think someone just sent a screenshot of an ESPN notification where NASCAR is thinking about changing playoffs.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. Let's see where it is. Yeah, we're gonna get to that after we talk about the schedules. So up next we talk about TV rights. Then we talk about the schedule for IMSA. Then we talk about the schedules for Xfinity, Truck, Cup, and ARCA and Indy. And then after that, we'll talk about that discussion. So let me talk about NASCAR. So we just talked about one, how the damaged vehicle policy. Oh, let's talk about playoff waivers and like playoff points. So they put out a new rule a couple weeks ago. For an example, 2023, Elliott intentionally wrecks Denny Hamlin, ends up suspended for one race, which also played a part in him missing the playoffs that year. If you do that in 2025 and NASCAR suspends you, or you miss a race, yeah, it's non-medical, and NASCAR grants a waiver for that, they're going to tax you big time. It's going to be all your playoff points. It doesn't matter how many races you've won, how many stages you've won, all that. They're going to tax you all your playoff points. You're going to have 0. So for an example, I would imagine Larson's going to end up losing all his playoff points this year because he's said he's going to go run the Indy 500 again. He'll get the waiver, but unfortunately, yep, it's unfortunate. Now, it's Kyle Larson. I don't expect him to not get those back, but he's going to lose them.
Yep, he's going to lose them. That's the thing.
It also says, like we said, if NASCAR grants or declines a playoff waiver request and loses, and it's a loss of playoff points, it's final. You can't appeal it. So if, for an example, Elliott did that to Hamlin this year, and Rick says, you know what, I'm going to appeal this. I think this is bogus. NASCAR is just picking on us. They're going to say, nope, you can't do that. So it's final. They made it clear. It's final. Nothing you do or say can change that outcome of that. So we already talked about the damaged vehicle policy. Let's talk about the old rule for damaged vehicle policy. So we've already said it. Here's another interesting thing. Here's another interesting thing after I say this. So for the old damaged vehicle policy, for all 3 series, you had 7 minutes. If you were involved in an accident or a tow link broke or something like that, and you had to repair your car, you had 7 minutes to go on the pit road and get those repairs made. If that clock expired, then you were in the garage for the day. That was it. If you were on pit road and you got the repairs made, and you went back out on the track and met minimal speed, then you were allowed to come back down pit road as much as you wanted, and until you were completely repaired to the point where you didn't have to go in anymore. But it also says, this is interesting, the old damaged vehicle rules of policy still apply in the Xfinity and Truck Series. So therefore, in the Xfinity and Truck Series, those guys will have 7 minutes this season to repair their cars if they're involved in an accident or trucks. That to me would be kind of like, I don't know, let's talk about the Detroit Lions for a minute. That'd be like saying, like, the Detroit Lions can commit every foul in the book and not one flag will be thrown, but all the other 31 teams can't. Like, they would get penalized, right? That to me is kind of bogus. Like, it's kind of like the fair treatment, like, you know, like, I expect the Xfinity and Truck Series guys to say something about that because, like, it's only for the Cup guys. Like, why not give these guys a chance too? Like, you know, like it's like we talked about. I can personally not repair a passenger car in 7 minutes. Therefore, these guys, I don't care how experienced you are, they can't repair these trucks and Xfinity cars in 7 minutes. At that point, I don't even understand why they try to fight the clock. They should just go to the garage. It's like, we know we can't fix it. Why are we trying at this point?
I think the DDT clock, like, give 7 minutes. I think they should give 7 minutes on pit road, but then I think they should get, and if they go to the garage, they shouldn't automatically be taken out of the race.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. Like 7 minutes, hey man, you gotta go to the garage. You're more than welcome to finish up in there and get back out on the track, but I have to, by rule, I have to send you to the garage to finish the repairs. And now the next, oh, what were you saying?
No, I just said I agree.
Okay. So the next rule change is race manipulation and OEM penalties. So it's the rule book now states rule violations by an OEM may result in loss of manufacturer's points and / or loss of wind tunnel hours and / or loss of reduced cost facility development runs according to the sanctioning body. They will assess the penalties for violation of the vehicle testing policy, wind tunnel policy, event roster, or code of conduct policy. And it says that they've opened the door to suspending drivers for race manipulation. A perfect example of race manipulation would be like, I think somebody actually did this, but be like slowing down on purpose to keep cars from passing a car to, like, for an example, like let's say during the playoffs, Chase Elliott.
I think it happened last year, Bubba Wall, like the Toyota stuff, trying to get the Chevy and Toyota stuff, like, hey, we can't let anybody go past 24. He needs this amount of points to make it in.
Yeah.
The Chevys did, and then there was the Toyota's. Bubba slowed down to let Christopher Bell pass.
Yeah. So basically, let's get back into an example here. An example would be Chase Elliott needing 1 point to get to win the tiebreaker to get in the playoffs, and Kyle Larson and William Byron are like, you know what? We're gonna hold up Denny Hamlin to make sure that NASCAR is gonna see that. They're gonna be like, nope, and I would imagine they would eliminate Elliott from the playoffs and pretty much, or no, maybe not Elliott, but they would eliminate the two guys that did it. And Elliott probably would still get in, but he would get in because of those guys being penalized. They definitely would get DQ'd, I would imagine. But yeah, so like, and race manipulation, also an example would be an intentional wreck. So if Denny Hamlin ran Bubba Wallace into the outside, I don't imagine why he would do that to his own driver, but it's just a hypothetical. If Hamlin ran Bubba out into the outside wall because he came up the track, and Bubba decided, you know what, I don't care if you're my boss, I'm gonna turn your head on into the outside wall, and he does that. That's race manipulation. That's gonna be a suspension for one race every time. So yeah, that's effective immediately too. Now, there is an open exemption provisional. Helio Castroneves is going to receive an OEP to get into the Daytona 500. NASCAR granted it. It means that he's guaranteed a spot. It does not matter. He could literally crash during qualifying and the dual race, and he's still in. He's pretty much being treated like a full-time driver here. Yep. However, obviously, if he wins the race, it's not, oh yeah, Helio's going to the playoffs, baby. No. That rule still applies. And he... Yeah. Which, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we get more drivers who retire from other sports coming into NASCAR. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Helio decided he wanted to go cup racing before he calls it quits forever. But So let's talk about this. This is an example that NASCAR provided. If Helio SVGs it and wins in his first ever NASCAR start, winning the 500 and / or a stage, they would get the win. Hey, congratulations, you won. You get the Harley J. Earl Trophy. You can go to a Waffle House. Yep. Right, he won't get the points. It won't. Yeah. 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 Also, it does announce that he would get All-Star eligibility. So therefore, he wins that race. He could say, you know what? Now I want to run the All-Star race and try to win that. So, I mean, he gets that eligibility. However, he's not going to the playoffs if he wins. Sorry, Helio Castroneves. He's not going to the fans. And Helio, you're not going to the playoffs if you win. If you want to go playoff racing, I think it would be too late to do this now, but you would have to become a full-time driver, and you're probably the first year they would allow that would be 2026, unless if, I don't know, technically it's not, the season starts technically on Sunday, so I guess if Trackhouse really wanted to get a last-minute car in for full-time, which they're not, but I'm just saying, like, if they really wanted to make a car full-time the last second, they probably could throw Helio in for the whole season. But if that's the only way Helio would get playoff eligibility. So, yeah. Right. Which, like I said, that they're obviously not going to do that. I mean, they probably. I wouldn't be surprised though if Helio does decide, you know, SVG kind of motivated me to do this. Why not go cup racing for a year or two and then call it a career? Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
He's going to be competing full time. That would bring more fans to the sport, and they'd be like, "Oh, this NASCAR stuff is pretty entertaining at these super speedways. Why don't we race here?
Yeah.
Or why don't we do something like this? This is fun to watch."
Exactly. Like, you know, you might get Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton that says, like, hey, you know, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Like, then there was talks about. You know, there was rumors because Denny was seen talking to Louis, like, oh, could Louis go cup racing for a one-off, you know, with Denny? I think that, you know, like I said, it would make, you know, maybe Alex Palou.
I think if Lewis does come into the sport, he would have to, you know, he would want his 44.
Yeah. Yeah. Which they haven't ran since 22, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. Or he definitely could talk to Gibbs about buying the 18. Because I don't think Gibbs has any interest in bringing the 18 back. My glasses are hurting my ears because my headphones are. Because I'm also live on YouTube. So, like, that's why I have my headset on, because I'm talking there, too, so, yeah. So, yeah, so that's that. Now, other changes, failure to meet engine inspection requirements under level 2 penalties. It would dock 75 to 120 championship points, 10 to 25 playoff points, and a suspension of 4 to 6 races for up to 2 crew members, and a $100,000 to $250,000 fine. So they're really going to tax you for that. It's a response to Denny Hamilton getting a penalty late in the regular season. That was they didn't seal and submit his engine from the spring Bristol race.
Because they have to send it to NASCAR to get inspected before they can run it for a second race.
Yep.
And the thing is that I think what JGR did was like, let's ask forgiveness later instead of ask permission now, in case that engine is illegal. Because if that engine was illegal, it'd be
Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah.
At this point in time, if it was illegal, I'm not exactly sure. But, you know, it's the thing is that I think it was a ask forgiveness instead of forgiveness or ask permission.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what happened to Joseph Newgarden, right? He won the season opening IndyCar race last year, and I think it was a month later IndyCar actually DQ'd him from that race. And it ended up going to what was his name again? He's the one that almost won the Indy 500 or 2024. Pato Award. Yeah. Yeah, Patricia Award. He was awarded the win there that Joseph originally had won, because I don't know if it was like the same issue, and gosh dang, Kansas City's winning 41-24 on that game on my TV. But anyway, yeah, so basically it's like that. So anyways, from that we head into the 2025 TV rights for IndyCar, and NASCAR. So, yep, IndyCar.
NASCAR moved the 600 to
Prime Video.
Prime.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting into that here. So let's discuss.
Touch on something really quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a big NASCAR gamer, but they have iRacing has said there's going to be 4 series in the game. There's going to be
Yep.
NASCAR Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, and then the ARCA Series, the big ARCA Series.
Here's what I hope for, though. I hope that we get a paint booth like 21 Ignition, and I hope that you can use custom cars online, and I hope that you can choose the track you race at online, because, you know, I have people in my league, you know, they're like, hey, can we go cup racing? And I keep having to tell them no, because it's like I have custom cars I made, and it's like, you know, I can't use them online, and we can't choose the race anyway, so it's like you can't go cup racing right now. You're going to have to stick with Xfinity and trucks. And I hope that, you know, they add the paint booth, because it'd be cool to take, like, shapes, you know, and make custom paint schemes for the truck and Xfinity cars also. But what would really be cool for iRacing to do, and I'm actually going to upload this to my profile and tag them in it. There's 2 things that would be really cool for iRacing to do. First, make an IndyCar game that we were supposed to get. And, yeah. And 2, yeah.
Like custom cars online. One thing I want to see is that, you know, are we going to get Lime Rock Park? Are we going to get IRP? Are we going to get Rocky? What are we going to get in the game? Because iRacing has the scans for those tracks for the game. Are we going to get that? Are we going to get some real tracks for Parka?
Yeah.
Or are we going to get something else? Are we going to get, let's say we get custom, like, fantasy tracks, like Coca-Cola Speedway, let's say, or something, South Florida Speedway for ARCA.
Yeah.
Instead of, because we know we're going to have the Cup Series tracks.
Yeah.
Are they going to do something like with 704 games that they have the license and to be able to run and have all the tracks for all the series like we did with the trucks on dirt?
The only thing we didn't get from 704 and NASCAR Heat 5 was the Daytona Road Course. That was the only track that was missing.
That in the game personally, that
Yeah.
might be a little bit too much of an ask as a tracks would be awesome.
Yeah.
Personally.
I think, honestly, what I think would be really cool for iRacing to do is, I don't care if the series races there or not anymore. Throw some of the old tracks in, like Chicagoland, Bristol Dirt, you know. Kentucky, yeah. Like, throw the Daytona road course on. I would love to have a Gen 7 race at Daytona on the road course.
I would love to see a night race in the Daytona road course again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things, like, you know, throw that stuff in the game. It's gonna make people want. They're probably not, but it's gonna make people want to play the game, like you said.
It's going to make people talk about the game, too.
Yeah.
And that's going to draw more interest in talking about it. So,
Now, back to what you said, I would imagine that each and every series will get their tracks respectfully. Meaning, you can race Daytona and Talladega in ARCA. You can race IRP.
Michigan.
Yep.
Michigan's in ARCA, so...
Yep. I mean, I would imagine it will still be in the game, but I don't know if it's going to be like... I would imagine it'd still be available for Xfinity too, because like it's kind of like the thing 704 did. Even if the series didn't race there, the track was still available. Like you could run Canadian Tire for Xfinity and Cup, for an example. So I would imagine, you know, people want to race an Xfinity Michigan race, even though they don't race there IRL this season. Then I would imagine that Michigan will be available for them. You might be able to do a Cup race at IRP. You know, you might be able to do a Cup race at the Rock.
Iowa for the Cup Series.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would allow, you know, races at non-Cup tracks, what they would do for sponsorship. Because I know with 704, with the Indy Road Course, they did the Pennzoil
Yep.
150.
It was
series.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be what happened.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see until later this year what that is.
What they really need to add is they need to add the Clash and All-Star race into the game too.
That would be fun, yes. That's what I liked with U-Technics is you could do those races.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I missed with 704 and the paint booth. U-Technics was really good. I thought it was a really good series. You know, granted, it was copy and paste every year from 2012 onwards. But
Yeah.
it was still really fun.
Yeah.
Play, and it was really, you know, I don't know if it was as in-depth as career mode in the Heat series was, but it was still a fun game to play. You could do season mode, you could do all this, all that, and it was fun. And I want to see something that is a combination of Heat and, you know, the Technic series.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it will be one of those things that we'll just have to wait and see. But let's get back to our TV rights talk, since that's what we originally in. So every IndyCar race of the season will be on Fox. Yep, it switches over from NBC to Fox this season.
My question is with the TV rights, is Adam Alexander's... Oh, no, because the Xfinity series is on the CW, not on...
Actually, it's going to be Adam Alexander, Jamie McMurray, and then there was one other guy in the CW booth for the Xfinity series.
And then I think Alexander was also doing the Amazon races, wasn't he?
Yeah. So,
With Jamie and Junior.
yeah, so it's Parker Kligerman. It's going to be Parker Kligerman, Jamie McMurray, and Adam Alexander. And kind of like what IndyCar is doing with Fox, having every race broadcast on there, the CW will broadcast every Xfinity Series race from the season opener at Daytona all the way to when the checkered flag crowns a champion in Phoenix in November. So yeah, that's that for the Xfinity and IndyCar series. Now the TV rights for the Cup series, the TV rights for the Truck series remain. Every race is on Fox FS1. But for the NASCAR Cup Series, things actually change. They have rights with Fox. They have rights with Prime Video, TNT. Yep. And then, yeah, let me figure that out in a sec. But let's finish up with the TV rights, and then we will. So, and then of course the season will end on, NBC. Yep. So let's talk about one more thing before we do that. This year the Cup Series is trying something new. Ever heard of the in-season tournament in the NBA? Well, welcome to the NASCAR Cup Series in-season tournament for the very first time this season. Yeah.
We can see if it wants to work the in-season tournament. I think we can give it at least a try, and I'm willing to give it a try just to see what it can do for us.
Listen to this. Adam Alexander is set to join TNT and Amazon as the lead announcer. So it doesn't say anything past that though. So the Cup Series has Fox, FS1, because some of the races are ran on FS1, Amazon Prime Video, TNT, NBC. The Truck Series, just straight Fox, FS1. Xfinity Series, straight CW. IndyCar, straight Fox, and now I imagine those are going to switch up between FS1 and FS2 as well, because if you have they race on the same day as NASCAR. So, I would imagine that.
Until Fox,
yep.
the TV rights change over to Amazon, I think it would.
Gosh.
That way. We don't know who's going to be.
You're right.
The broadcaster.
Right. We only know one, and that's Adam Alexander. Oh, no, not IndyCar. Yeah, no, we don't know IndyCar yet. But we know Adam Alexander is going to be doing the CW for Xfinity, Prime Video, and TNT for Cup. So that's the TV rights for IndyCar and NASCAR. Now let's talk about the 2025 IMSA schedule, which is why I'm sitting at my other desk so I can pull things up on my laptop to discuss things. So for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, we are past the Roar before the 24, and we are past the Rolex 24. We discussed that the next race is the 12 Hours of Sebring. That will be Saturday, March 15th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on Peacock. You can also listen to it on IMSA Radio. That is a 12-hour race, hence the name. Then the next race after that will be April 12th. It will be the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. I stuttered there. I'm at beach. So it will be 100 minutes. That's the duration of that race. The fourth race on the schedule will be the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship of Monterey. It will be Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Raceway, on May 11th. It will be 2 hours and 40 minutes. The fifth race will be the Detroit Grand Prix. May 31st, an hour 40 minutes, 100 minutes total. The sixth race will be the Shaylands 6 Hours of the Glen, June 22nd. The duration is in the name. That race is 6 hours. Then the next race after that will be the Chevrolet Grand Prix at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 2 hours and 40 minutes. That will be July 13th. August 3rd, they head to Road America for IMSA Sports Car Weekend. 2 hours and 40 minutes is the duration of that. Then we go to the Michelin GT Challenge at Virginia International Raceway, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Then the TireRack.com, that Michelin Challenge is August 24th. Then we go to the TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks, September 21st. That is a 6-hour-long race. Then the final race of the IMSA sports car season will be the Monto Payet Le Mans race at Road Atlanta, October 11th, and that will be 10 hours. And that will be the final race on the 2025 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. Now, we move into the schedules for Cup, Xfinity, and ARCA. Let's do ARCA first because it will be easier to do Truck, Cup, and Xfinity. And all that stuff later. Alright, so also all ARCA Menard Series races will be split up between Fox, FS1, and FS2 throughout the entire season. So there's 20 races. We start with the Hard Rock Bet 200 at Daytona. Then we go to, on February 15th, then March 7th, we go to the General Tire 150 at Phoenix Raceway. April 26th, we go to the General Tire 200 at Dega, aka the Junkyard, I like to name it, because most of the cars end up there after that race. May 9th, we go to the Tide 150 at Miniature Daytona, Kansas Speedway. Then it's the General Tire 150 at Charlotte on May 23rd. We go to the Henry Ford Health 200 at Michigan on June 6th. Then we go to the Berlin ARCA 200 at Berlin Raceway. That's also in Michigan, June 14th. And then it's the Shore Lunch 250 at Elko Speedway, June 21st. That's actually a day after my birthday. And then the next race number 9 is to be announced at Lime Rock Park on June 28th. Then it's the General Tire 150 at Dover on July 18th. That will be the 10th race. So after that, 10 races to go in the entire season. Race number 11. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, any of these.
I just watched a video today by Real Radman that he was curious about what was going to be in the game. So.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be. So after that, after Dover, it's off to the Circle City 200 at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, July 25th. August 1st, we go to the Atlas 150 at Iowa Speedway. Race number 13 is the General Tire 100 at the Glen at Watkins Glen International, August 8th. August 17th for race 14, we go to the Springfield ARCA 100 at the Illinois State Fairgrounds Racetrack. August 22nd, race number 15, it's also another to be announced. It's at the Madison International Speedway. August 31st, race 16, it's the Southern Illinois 100. September 11th, race number 17, it's the Bush's Beans 200 at Bristol Motor Speedway. September 20th, it's race number 18, the Kentuckiana Ford Dealers 200 at Salem Speedway. Race number 19 is the Reese's 150 at Kansas Speedway, September 26th. And the season finale, race number 20, the Owens Corning 200 at Toledo Speedway. So that is the entire 2025 ARCA Menard Series season schedule. And now we can look up the schedules for all three of NASCAR's main series.
The
Yep. All right, so this is for the Cup Series. Well, this Sunday is the Cookout Clash. That's interesting that they changed the name from Busch Light to Cookout.
I like it. I think Cookout is a good sponsor for the area.
Yeah.
I like having Busch Light since it's the pole sponsor, and then it being the same name as the pole sponsor. Pole winners used to make it, and it's kind of more gimmicky.
Yeah.
That's what it is at this point. So.
Yeah, definitely. So we start with the Clash. February 16th is the Daytona 500. February 23rd, we go to Atlanta for the Ambetter Health 400. March 2nd, it's the Echo Park Texas Grand Prix, Circuit of the Americas. March 9th, it's the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix. March 16th, it's the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. March 23rd, instead of being a playoff race, it moves back to the spring, but it's the Straight Talk Wireless 400 at Homestead, Miami. March 30th, honestly, that would be fire, I'm not going to lie. March 30th, it's the Cookout 400 at Martinsville Speedway. April 6th will be the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway. April 13th, the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. April 27th, my question has been answered, and my question was, since Geico left as a premier partner at the end of the 2024 season, would the spring Talladega race name change? And the answer is yes. It is now the Jack Links 500 at Talladega. Yeah,
Really well, I do.
definitely. Especially because Talladega's like the Sasquatch. You don't want to mess with it. Then May 4th is the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400. If you're a Chase Elliott fan, you should know that race really well. As he's the most recent winner of that race. May 11th will be the Advent Health 400 from Kansas Speedway. May 18th is the All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. May 25th will be the Coca-Cola 600. That starts Prime Video's coverage of the season. June 1st will be the Ally 400 at Nashville. June 8th will be the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. Hopefully it doesn't get rained out when I go this time, like it did the past 2 years. June 15th will be the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Interesting. In Mexico City. Then June 22nd will be the HighPoint.com 400 at Pocono Raceway. June 28th will be the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta, so that's the second and final Atlanta race of the season. July 6th will be the Grant Park 165 Chicago Street Course, so that will still be like kind of around the 4th of July. July 13th will be the Toyota Save Mart 350 Sonoma Raceway, so it kind of moves to later in the season. July 20th will be the Worth 400 at Dover Motor Speedway. July 27th will be the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis. August 3rd will be the Iowa Corn 350 presented by Ethanol at Iowa. August 10th will be Go Bowling at the Glen, Watkins Glen. August 16th will be the Cookout 400 at Richmond Raceway. And then August 23rd, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 Daytona International Speedway. It returns to the regular season finale. Now we go to the playoffs for the round of 16. August 31st, the Southern 500 is back in the playoffs at Darlington Raceway. September 7th, a new track added to the playoffs. The Enjoy Illinois 300 at Gateway. September 13th, the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. That's the elimination race. Once the checkered flag flies in that, 4 drivers' championship hopes will come to an end. Then we go down to 12. Another new track added to the playoffs. September 21st is the USA Today 301 at New Hampshire. September... Yeah, that's interesting. September 28th, it's the Hollywood Casino 400 at Kansas. October 6th, the Bank of America Roval 400 at the Roval. Then again, 4 more drivers will be eliminated after that Bank of America Roval 400 race. Then we go down to 8, October 12th, the South Point 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Then this is where it's going to get really chaos because the drivers that the drivers that normally are good could potentially have a crappy day here. But October 19th, the Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine 500 at Talladega Super Speedway. Then we go down to October 26th is the Xfinity 500 at Martinsville. It's still the cutoff race. 4 drivers' hopes will come to an end. And then on November 2nd, the remaining 4 drivers will compete for the Bill France Cup at Phoenix Raceway in the NASCAR Cup Series Championship. So that's the Cup Series 2024 schedule. Now let's go into the Xfinity Series. KC is winning the game on my PlayStation 51-31 with 5:12 to go in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. All right. Yep, here it is. The Xfinity Series schedule. Whoops. Hang on one sec. An ad blocker popped up on my... Alright. So here's the NASCAR Xfinity Series 2025 schedule. So we get started with the United Rentals 300 on February 15th from Daytona. I was actually kind of shocked last season when they ran the race on Monday and I found out that Beef It's What's for Dinner no longer sponsored the race because they hadn't posted anything that was no longer going to be sponsoring the race and that United Rentals was going to be sponsoring it. So that was interesting. But then on February 22nd, it'll be the Bennett Transportation and Logistics 250 from Atlanta. March 1st, it'll be the Focused Health 250 from Circuit of the Americas. Saturday, March 8th, it'll be the Call 811.com Every Dig, Every Time 200 from Phoenix Raceway. On Saturday, March 15th, it will be the Luana NASCAR Xfinity Series from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. March 22nd, the Contender Boats 300 from Homestead. March 29th will be the Dude Wipes 250 from Martinsville Speedway. April 5th will be the Crown Royal Purple Bag Project 200 from Darlington. April 12th will be Bristol Motor Speedway. A sponsor has not been announced for that race. Same with the next race on April 19th at Rockingham. A sponsor is to be determined. April 26th will be the Ag Pro 300 from Dega. May 3rd will be the Andes Frozen Custard 300. Then May 10th and May 17th for 2 straight weeks. It's an off week. Saturday, May 24th will be the Bet MGM 300 from Charlotte. May 31st will be the Tennessee Lottery 250 from Nashville. And because of them not going to Michigan, Saturday, June 7th will be an off week. Then June 14th, they head to Mexico City as well. June 21st, it will be the Explore the Pocono Mountains 225 from Pocono. June 27th, it will be the Focused Health 250 from Atlanta. Then it will be the Loop 110 from Chicago Street Course 1 day after the 4th of July. July 12th, it will be the Zip Now Pay Later or Buy Now Pay Later 250 from Sonoma. When you talk, you tend to get some air stuck in your throat there. Excuse me. July 19th will be the Bet Rivers 200 from Dover Motor Speedway. July 26th will be the Pennzoil 250 that is on the oval at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. August 2nd will be the Hy-Vee Perks 250 from Iowa. August 9th will be the Mission 200 at the Glen from Watkins Glen. August 22nd will be the Wawa 250 from Daytona. August 30th that will be the Pacific Office Automation 400 from Portland. September 6th, sponsor is to be determined. But it is at Gateway, so we'll have to see what that sponsor is. As soon as the sponsors come out for the races that don't have them, we will let you know on this podcast. And I was thinking about the playoffs. Now, the Xfinity Series is different from the Cup Series. The Cup Series starts... Yep, so it's only 12 drivers that start the playoffs. So for the first race of the round of 12, September 12th will be the Food City 300 from Bristol. Then September 27th will be the Kansas Lottery 300 from Kansas Speedway. Then on October 4th, it will be the Drive for the Keir 250 from the Roval. Now, same as Cup, though. After that first round, 4 drivers' hopes for a title will come to an end. Then we go down to 8. It will be the Focused Health 302 on October 11th from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 201 laps, which is kind of just an odd number to do. Like, just make it 200 or 208 or 210 at that point. 210 would make more sense. October 18th will be the United Rentals 250 from Talladega Super Speedway. That's interesting. And then October 25th will be the Dead On Tools 250 from Martinsville. After that race, 4 drivers' championship hopes will come to an end. Then we go to the championship race in Phoenix Raceway on the 1st, and a champion will be crowned. Now, here's my opinion on the Xfinity and ARCA series having repeat sponsors for some of the races. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that. Because if we're going to be watching the United Rentals 300 to open up the season, yeah. Why are we having the United Rentals? Yeah. 250 at Dega.
250 at Talladega, that's...
Yeah. Like, honestly, it should be something cool. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind if they used a repeat sponsor from the Cup Series and just called it the Yellowwood 250.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. Or, like, let's say, the Jack Links 250.
Yeah. Like, I don't...
Jack Links has already sponsored the spring race. Let them sponsor the Xfinity fall race.
Exactly. You know, or I don't see a single Xfinity sponsorship of a race. You know, why not the Xfinity 250? Like, I just, like I said, I don't know if I like the repeat sponsorship. Like, you know, because that's taking away from, like, other people that want to get in the sport. Like, let's say Coca-Cola, you know, well, they technically do with the Wawa 250. So I guess, like, you know, what if Justin... But see, that's into my next point. Like, if there's a different kind, if there's like the same sponsor, but there's a different thing within it, like the Coke Zero Sugar 400 and the Coca-Cola 600, that's fine. Yeah. But having the United Rentals, you know, 300 and 250, I just don't like that. I also don't like having 2 Focused Health races. You could have easily threw Ambetter Health in one of those races, in my opinion, and all that stuff. You know, heck, Bass Pro Shops, you know, like I said, you could throw Xfinity in there. There's so many other options. It's taking away from, yeah, from those others. Yeah, like, I understand, you know, like, you know, these are the big sponsors. We got to make sure we get their names out there the most, but at least change it up. Like, you know, like, let's say you You called it the United Rentals presented by Caterpillar 250. That'd be fine.
That would be fine, yeah.
Um,
Or presented by JCB
yeah,
Construction.
yeah.
Or something like that.
That would be completely fine. And Kansas City just won the game on my PS5. But since we still got a little ways to go in the podcast, I'm just gonna rematch the game so that way they can at least watch something.
Yeah.
That's why it was on in the first place.
I think I might head off. Thank you for letting me join. I'm getting tired, so.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you finish this off.
All right, feel free to jump on at any time.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, so it's just me now. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna rematch this game. So Kansas City won the first game. That's kind of weird. Anyway, well, not really weird, but that's kind of funny. So yeah, so that's the Xfinity Series schedule. That's my take on some of the repeat sponsors. Like I said, the thing with Coca-Cola that the NASCAR Cup Series does, that's not the worst thing in the world, but at least change it up within the Xfinity Series, Oh. Alright, so now let's do the Truck Series. Alright, so there is 25 races on the Truck Series schedule. 18 regular season races. So February 14th, we start with the Fresh from Florida 250 at Daytona. 2 p.m. February 22nd, we go to Atlanta. March 14th, it's off to Las Vegas. March 21st, it's off to Homestead. March 28th, we go to Martinsville. April 11th, it's off to Bristol for the trucks. April 18th, it's off to Rockingham, which that actually has a sponsor, the Black's Tire 200. May 2nd, it's off to Texas Motor Speedway for the SpeedyCash.com 250. Then it's off to Kansas on May 10th. May 17th, we go to North Wilkesboro. May 23rd, it's off to Charlotte. May 30th, Nashville. June 7th, they actually race at Michigan. They return to Michigan for the first time since 2020. June 20th, my birthday. They race at Pocono. June 28th, they do not have a sponsor for Lime Rock Park yet, but that is where they head June 28th. July 25th, they go to Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. August 8th, they're going to race at Watkins Glen for the Jack Daniels 175. That's kind of cool that Jack Daniels is back in the sport. August 15th will be the regular season finale at Richmond Raceway. Now, again, the truck is different from the Xfinity and Cup Series, kind of like the Xfinity being different from the Cup Series. There's only 10 drivers that can make the Craftsman Truck Series playoffs. And they kick off at Darlington Raceway, August 30th. Then September 11th, they go to Bristol. And then September 20th, they actually are going to race at New Hampshire. That will be the cutoff race for the round of 10. After that race, 2 drivers, because it's different from Xfinity and Cup, they only have 10 drivers in trucks. So 2 drivers' championship hopes after the New England 200 at New Hampshire will come to an end, and that will be unfortunate for them. Now, another to-be-announced sponsor, but for the first time, this is another big news thing. For the first time ever, the Truck Series will race the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval on October 3rd. Again, the sponsors to be announced. October 17th will be the Love's RV Stop 225 from Talladega. October 24th, it will be the Zip Now Pay Later 200 from Martinsville Speedway. Now this time, unlike the first round, 4 drivers' championship hopes will come to an end. And then October 31st will be the season finale Craftsman 150 at Phoenix Raceway. Whoever finishes the highest out of the remaining 4 drivers will take home the title. Now that is the schedule for the Cup, Xfinity, Truck, ARCA, and now we gotta do IndyCar, and then we will be done with schedule. Alright, so there are 17 IndyCar races in the IndyCar season for the NTT IndyCar series, the Cup series of IndyCar. There's also an Xfinity series of Alright, so what I was saying before it ended again is there's a Cup series of IndyCar and there's an Xfinity series of IndyCar. So we're going to start with the NTT IndyCar series schedule. So race number 1 will be March 2nd, and it will be the streets of St. Petersburg. Then the March 23rd, it's the Thermal Club IndyCar Grand Prix. That's a non-points paying race. Then April 13th will be the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Will be the streets of Long Beach in California. And then May 4th will be the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix at Barber Motorsports Park. May 10th will be the Sansio Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. May 25th will be the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this time on the oval. Race number 7 will be June 1st. It will be the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix in Detroit. June 15th will be the Barmonto Automotive Group 500 at Worldwide Technology Gateway. Then June 22nd will be the Expel Grand Prix at Road America. July 6th will be the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. July 12th will be the Hy-Vee IndyCar Race Weekend Race 1 at Iowa. Then the 13th will be the Hy-Vee IndyCar Race Weekend Race 2 at Iowa. Then July 20th we have the Ontario Honda Dealers Indy Toronto. It's an exhibition race, or exhibition place. Then we have the IndyCar Grand Prix of Monterey, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca on the 27th of July. August 10th, we have the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland. August 24th, we have the Milwaukee Mile 250 at the Milwaukee Mile Raceway. And then August 31st, 2025 will be the season finale. Big Machine Music City Grand Prix at Nashville Super Speedway. So that would be exciting. Now, the Xfinity Series of IndyCar, the 2025 Indy NXT by Firestone schedule. They start on March 2nd at 10 a.m. on the streets of St. Petersburg. May 4th, they're at Barber Motorsports Park. May 9th, they're on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. May 10th, they're on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, so they have 2 consecutive races on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. June 1st, they're on the streets in Detroit. June 15th, they're at Worldwide Technology Raceway. June 22nd, they're at Road America. July 6th, they're at Mid-Ohio. July 12th, they're at Iowa Speedway. July 26th and 27th, they're at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. August 10th, they're at Portland. August 24th, they're at the Milwaukee Mile. And then race number 14, August 31st, they are at Nashville Super Speedway for their championship race. So that is the schedules for Cup, Xfinity, Truck, ARCA, and IndyCar, and IMSA. We got that done. Let's talk about another big thing. NASCAR announced today that they will not be making any changes to the current playoff, how they run the playoffs in all 3 series. So at the end of last season, a lot of people wanted to see NASCAR go back to full season points, meaning that whoever had the most points at the end of the season was the champion. However, there were still fans that liked the idea of the playoffs, including myself. I think that the playoffs do belong in NASCAR. You can argue that against the full season points in NASCAR by saying that, for an example, if the Kansas City Chiefs score the most points in the NFL season, they don't get the NFL championship. If the Dodgers score the most points in an MLB season, they don't get the championship. It's the same with all these other series, all these other sports events. I like the idea of the playoffs because it basically awards the most consistent driver, right? The most consistent team throughout the postseason. A perfect example of this would be the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. They're in the Super Bowl. Another perfect example would be the 2024 Los Angeles Dodgers. They were the most consistent. Having the playoffs in NASCAR allows the most consistent driver during the playoffs to get that title. It does award a deserving champion. That's my own personal opinion on it. I would hope that people would respect my opinions as much as I would respect yours. You don't have to agree with me. That's not what I'm saying at all, but in my opinion, the playoffs do belong in NASCAR, and honestly, it's kind of cool that at least for this season, NASCAR has decided they're not going to make any changes to the playoffs. Also, another big news for Jimmy Johnson. He now becomes the majority owner of Legacy Motor Club. So how about that for JJ? He's now the majority owner of Legacy Motor Club. And that's just, it's just a cool moment for him. He definitely deserves to be majority owner. I can't think of another guy who really deserves it more than JJ. He's accomplished a lot over his career, even, his part-time career. Sure, he has yet to win a race in his part-time career. He hasn't won in a long time in the Cup Series, but, it's nice to see that he at least gets to run his own team, essentially, even though he was before. And now Nice Motorsports announces their driver lineup for the number 41 for the 2025 season. Ross Chastain, Bailey Curry, and Matthew Gold will be the drivers of the number 41 for the 2025 Craftsman Truck Series season. Honestly, those are all great drivers in my opinion. So I don't really have any complaints. Let's talk about the FRM, aka Front Row Motorsports Truck Series lineup. It consists of Lane Riggs and Chandler Smith, but instead of Lane Riggs driving the 38, he now drives the 34. Chandler Smith will drive the 38. Also, another big thing that happened during the off-season, obviously, Stewart Haas Racing shut down, but Gene Haas kept one Cup car and sold off the other ones to Front Row Motorsports and a few others. But the 41 is still in the Cup Series. Cole Custer will be back in the Cup Series for the first time since 2022. So that's kind of cool. They kept both of their Xfinity cars, except it's no longer the 98. It's now the 41 and 00. Sheldon Creed, and there was another guy that joined the team. I can't remember. But they kept that operation going. That was kind of cool. Now let's talk about the 01. It's a Cup Series car, and Corey LaJoie will be running part-time in it. He was unable to find a full-time ride anywhere, but he was able to find himself a part-time ride. Personally, I think that a part-time ride would be the best for Corey right now. It gives him a chance to, clean things up and potentially return to the Cup Series in the near future. Now, let's talk about Austin Dillon's Richmond win from the 2024 summer race at Richmond. We all know what happened. Austin Dillon found himself 30-plus in points, and it was getting down to the wire in the season, and he had to win a race to even qualify for the playoffs. So he did something daring. Something that Logano fans and Hamlin fans said that they probably would not have done, even though I think that they would have. In the same situation, Austin Dillon gives up the lead. They take the white flag. Down in turns 3 and 4, Austin Dillon overdrives it in, gets into Logano. Logano spins out as a result of the contact from Austin Dillon. And because Austin Dillon got slowed down because of spinning out Logano, Hamlin was to his outside. Looked like Hamlin was going to actually win the race the legit way and not jump the restart like he did in the spring. And Austin Dillon right hooked Denny into the wall, got past him, held off Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace and all of them, and ended up winning the race. And Austin Dillon fans and everybody was celebrating. They're like, Austin Dillon's finally back in the playoffs for the first time since 2022. And it was the Wednesday after the race, the week of Michigan, because Michigan was the next race. And NASCAR officially said that win would not count towards the postseason. Meaning he gets to keep the win, but he would have to win again to qualify for the postseason. Unfortunately, he was unable to win again, and he unfortunately did not make the postseason. But they allowed him to keep that win. Now, NASCAR announced today that Austin Dillon's win will still count towards the All-Star race. So while it didn't get him into the postseason, it could get him a spot in the All-Star race. So that was pretty interesting. And now let's do a countdown to Daytona for ARCA, Xfinity, Truck, and Cup. Well, there is 18 days until the Fresh from Florida 250 for the Craftsman Truck Series, the season opener. That would make 17 for the dual races and 16 for Daytona 500 qualifying. There is 5 days, until we go green at the Clash at Bowman Gray. But there's also 19 days until the United Rentals 300 season opener for the NASCAR Xfinity Series goes green. There is 20 days until the Daytona 500 for the Cup Series season opener. There is also 19 days until the ARCA Menards Series season opener at Daytona. Also, another big announcement. Ryan Truex will race for Sam Hunt Racing in the number 26. It's another car being added. It was either 26 or 24, I think. But there's another car being added to Sam Hunt Racing for Daytona. So Ryan Truex will attempt to qualify for the season opener, and he will race for Sam Hunt Racing in the season opener. Now, some interesting but shocking news. Bill Weber, a voice of NASCAR, passed away in December of last year, but nobody found out until today. So that was kind of an interesting yet shocking, fact. Like, I personally didn't know who Bill Weber was, because obviously I wasn't born around the time he would call races and stuff, but it's still shocking, he passed away so long ago, but yet we're just now finding it out, and it being almost February. So, rest in peace to Bill. Hopefully you can continue to enjoy your sport from up there. And we've said this when we announced the schedules, but NASCAR returns to the Rock. NASCAR will race at Rockingham for the Xfinity and Truck Series only this season. So that will be interesting to see them return there. Obviously, I didn't get to see a race at the Rock because I wasn't born yet the last time they raced there, but that'll be interesting to get to see them race there. It was also interesting to see them race at North Wilkesboro, because again, I wasn't born the last time they raced there until they raced there in 2023 for the All-Star race. And then the day of the Rolex 24, NASCAR put out a rumor that they might try to attempt an endurance race. And this would be interesting. And this is my take on an endurance race. Because endurance racing features multi-class racing, meaning there's multiple winners, I think you combine the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series into the race. All each in their own class, meaning they take the green flag at different times. You throw them on the Daytona road course for about 4 to 6 hours. So what happens is, you let the main series go first. You put the Cup Series, you give the Cup Series the green flag first. Then shortly after those guys are through the S's and heading down towards the International Horseshoe, you throw the green flag for the Xfinity Series, let them go down there, get down towards the International Horseshoe, towards the S's, and you send the trucks the green flag, and you let them go down. And then at the end of this 4 to 6 hours, you award a winner for each series. There will be a truck winner, there will be an Xfinity winner, and there would be a Cup winner. I think that'd be interesting. But also, what would even be more interesting is if you really split the field up. A field of Cup cars for the 500 is 40. You could have 40 Cup cars on the track and split them up into 2 different classes or even 3 different classes. If you really wanted to have more than just one winner for Cup, you could send the Chevys green first, then you could send the Fords green, then you could send the Toyotas green, and do that in all 3 series. And you could have a winner for each manufacturer. That would be another interesting way to do an endurance race. But honestly, I think that the best way possible to do an endurance race for NASCAR, put all 3 series on the Daytona road course, add that chicane you had, and send them racing for 4 to 6 hours. And then whoever is in first for each of the 3 series, when the checkered flag flies, they win. That'd be cool. So honestly, there's really nothing else to say there about that. I mean, I'm excited NASCAR's going to be coming back, but we don't cover just NASCAR here in this podcast. It's all motorsports, specifically car racing motorsports like IMSA, IndyCar, Indy NXT, Craftsman Truck, any of the NASCAR series, ARCA, you get it. We don't cover like every motorsports because there's like a lot of them, but we cover a good amount of them. And we hope that you guys honestly enjoy this. I mean, I sure enjoyed the very first episode of this. And honestly, this is gonna be fun. We'll obviously, each and every week when the race season starts, we will come on both YouTube and Instagram Live, and we will talk about the race. You know, maybe discuss the previous winner at the track and make our predictions for the upcoming race. Like we said, we're going to do that around Daytona 500 time for the NASCAR, for each of the NASCAR series and ARCA. And, you know, when IndyCar rolls around, we'll do that too. We'll make our predictions for the 12 Hours of Sebring when that race rolls around and all that stuff. So, with that, what's up? You actually caught us at the end, so be sure to tune in tomorrow. So, you caught me at the end, Jordan, so make sure to tune in tomorrow. But with that in mind, we hope you enjoyed the Checkered Flag podcast. Let's just do a recap of what we went over during the podcast. So we did a Rolex 24 recap. We told you the winners of all the classes. We talked about the Clash. We talked about the 2025 rule changes for the NASCAR Cup Series. We talked about the 2025 TV rights for NASCAR and IndyCar. We talked about the 2025 IMSA schedule, the 2025 Cup, Xfinity Truck, ARCA, Menards, and IndyCar schedule. We talked about how there was no changes to the playoffs. We talked about how Jimmy Johnson became a majority owner, the Nice Motorsports number 41 driver lineup for 2025. We talked about Corey LaJoie's 2025 plans. We talked about Front Row Motorsports truck lineup for the 2025 season. We talked about how Austin Dillon's win still counts for the All-Star race. We got the countdown to Daytona. We talked about Ryan Truex's plans for 2025. We talked about the shocking news about Bill Weber. We talked about NASCAR's return to the Rock, and we ended things with the NASCAR endurance race, possibly. Even though that was just like a tease, I would imagine that they probably would try it. Tomorrow, we're going to basically just discuss any news that we might have. And basically all that. So, with that, we're going to say so long, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this first episode of the Checkered Flag podcast. Catch us back here tomorrow night for an all-new episode of the Checkered Flag podcast. It's probably not going to be as long as tonight's, but it depends on how much we have to cover. With that in mind, so long, everybody. We hope